Yo, I hope you guys are doing fantastic today. In this video, we're going to be going over a solo rogue build for Dark and Darker. The rogue in Dark and Darker is a very fast, sneaky class. So if lurking in the shadows and waiting for the right moment to strike and then popping out, stabbing enemies in the back sounds like your type of play style, then the rogue may be something you want to try out. You can go completely invisible with this class, but for this particular solo build, we're going to be focusing heavily on damage over time abilities and maximizing our damage output to easily clear rooms and take out opponents. So some of the pros and cons of this solo build include it is a very fast build. So there's a lot of damage over time. As we mentioned, you can pick locks and you can still sneak around even though you're not taking the hide ability. So the cons of this build is it's very low health and you can be very easily killed, and it is not very beginner friendly and it's pretty gear dependent. So the rogue can feel pretty challenging to play to begin with, but you can easily be taken down by monsters and players alike if you're not careful. You need to pick your battles very wisely and utilize your speed to your advantage. The rogue is also pretty gear dependent and the starting gear is not great, which can make it difficult to get over the initial gearing hump. However, if you can play to your strengths, the rogue can perform really well as a solo class and can be a lot of fun. So here's the recommended skills that we take. So the two skills that I recommend for this particular build are weak point, attack, and rupture. So these two abilities are the most reliable and effective, especially as a solo player, in my opinion. You could opt for hide and go for more of a stealthy route. However, if you're trying to clear rooms effectively and get out with a lot of loot, the damaging skills are the way to go. So high can be effective in a more stealthy build, but for this build, we're shooting for more damage and quick room clears. Smoke bomb and couch drops are just both very situational abilities, and I really don't recommend taking those at this time. So the recommended perks for this build are poison weapon, backstab, creep, and lockpick. So poison weapon is probably one of the best rogue passives that you can get. You can constantly stack dots on your target, deal a ton of pressure to them while you kite them around using your speed. And then backstab is a great choice for additional damage for both PvE room clears and PvP encounters. So with your high mobility, you can oftentimes position yourself behind your target for more damage, or you can pop out from the shadows and just do a lot of backstab damage to another player and kind of catch them off guard. And then creep is the way that you're going to be kind of stealthy as the rogue with this dot build. Footstep sounds in Dark and Darker are a very big part of the game, and creep is going to make you quieter so that you can sneak around more easily and then possibly even get the upper hand on your opponent. And then lockpick is the last ability that I like to take for this build. I find it very useful to access the additional loot during your dungeon runs. You could opt to slot a different ability for lockpick. This is kind of a personal preference. I would consider this more of a flex slot. So you can put something else here if you so choose, if you wanted to go a little bit more damage, if you really like daggers, or if you wanted to detect traps easily, or whatever it may be. This could be a flex slot. I like to use lockpick because I like to get out with as much loot as possible. I don't like seeing those chests that I can't get into. Now let's talk about gear for just a minute. Rogues are fairly limited in the gear they can use, so there's a few things that you want to keep your eye on whenever you're trying to find gear or whenever you're looting gear. So you want to try to utilize a rapier in your main hand and a dagger in your offhand. This is going to help extend your range and damage. You can typically pick up a cheap rapier from the weaponsmith early on. This will really help you clear dungeons easier as a solo player. So there's also a couple of gear sets that you can pick up. The Gamson or the Marauder outfit are both viable gear options that you can buy from the merchants pretty early on. And then you want to prioritize your gear with plus all attributes is the most important thing to get on your gear, of course. And then agility would be second, and then strength would be third. So agility is really going to be your primary focus here, but the addition of strength, it can be useful for a little bit of extra damage output if you choose to go that route. So the way that we like to play this solo build here, it's a very damage over time heavy build like we mentioned before. So you're not going to be stealthing in and out of situations. So you want to be aware of all of your surroundings at all times. So whenever you encounter a target, whether it be PvE or PvP, you want to make sure you have both of your skills activated for maximum damage. So you're going to pop in, hit your target a couple times, then back up. You want to use your speed to your advantage to avoid as much damage as possible. Then remember that whenever you hit your target, you're placing a lot of damage over time on them. So you want to land a couple of hits, back up, let your dots do a lot of the heavy lifting here because they will stack and do quite a lot of damage over time. It's going to apply a lot of pressure to your opponent. So just kind of stay out of range. Jab, jab, get out, jab, jab, get out. It's just a very fast, like quick play style. You're not staying in there trying to land heavy hits. You're really landing slow jabs, moving back, letting them swing, and then popping back in, hitting them, and then letting your dots do a lot of the damage. So you don't have a sustain as the rogue at all. So make sure to take health potions and or bandages into every dungeon, and then utilize the health shrines whenever the opportunity is there. And then whenever you're looting a room, make sure that you're taking advantage of the creep passive. So crouch walking can help you clear room undetected and get the jump on another player. It can help you just be a little bit more stealthy. It's a very good way to walk around undetected in a room and kind of to outsmart your opponents or other players in the room while they're there with you. Also, make sure to take advantage of torches. With the crouch ability and the torches, you want to turn off the torches, crouch around, be very sneaky. You can still play very stealthy even though you're not utilizing the hide passive or hide ability. You can still play very stealthy as a rogue, and that's what I highly recommend. You don't want to go running into a battle head on, because again, you will get one shot very easily by a barbarian or other classes. So just make sure you're aware of that, and use speed to your advantage. Use speed and use the dots to your advantage, in and out type of play style. Then also the same thing applies for PvE as well. Just hit the target, back up, hit the target, back up, and let your dots do a lot of the heavy lifting. But that'll do it. That's what we're using. This is a very heavy dot build. It's a lot of fun. I've definitely been enjoying it. Rogue is pretty difficult to play as a solo player sometimes, but once you get the hang of it, it can be quite a lot of fun. But thank you guys so much for watching. I greatly appreciate it. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to like and subscribe. That'll do it for this one. We'll see you in the next one.